How's it going, everyone? Happy Sunday night. We have a special edition of Morning Alpha Sunday night edition, and we're going to do some Dynasty startup strategy and just a little bit of a Dynasty deep dive. So jump in and let's get started. How's it going, everyone? A little bit of an impromptu stream tonight. So thanks for hopping in. Tonight we are going to be talking Dynasty. It's been a few weeks since I did a startup, but just wanted to kind of go and show the draft board a little bit and talk some strategy, what I'm seeing in the market right now, and then we can kind of just also dive into kind of general strategy this time of year as post combine, as the kind of rookies are getting steamed up, and as we approach the NFL draft and going into kind of the summer. So let's quickly pull up this draft board and let's get started. So this was a draft with it's mostly guys I know before. There's a few randos mixed in, but so I got to I was at the pick 110, and we see here it's a pretty normal start. We got Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts going 103, CJ Stroud, Burrow, Jefferson, Lamar going 1-7, which is a little later than I've seen him going most of the time, but not super crazy. Herbert going pick 108, and then I wanted Chase to fall to 110, but he didn't. But I really I took CeeDee Lamb there, and I think he should be viewed pretty much like very, very slightly behind the Jefferson Chase tier, like if not in the same tier. I know a lot of people have them pretty much back to back to back with no real difference. And I think as this offseason has progressed, I've gone more and more down the way of thinking that once you reach this kind of back end of the first range, I'm very, very comfortable taking if it's a Chase or a Lamb that falls, and taking them, and then because there's a plethora of options at QB in the second and third rounds, and the warp difference between those top 3 or 4 QBs versus the back end, I think presents kind of a interesting equation there, where you can take a Lamb or a Chase that might give you whatever 23 points a game at wide receiver versus a Justin Herbert this year, or the 101, whether that's Caleb Williams or whoever you take there, if it's Marvin Harrison Jr. But I think there's like Justin Herbert could be outscored by Chase or Lamb in a given season. So then you can kind of wrap around, like in this case, I went with CeeDee Lamb 110, and we see 101 go off the board. Anthony Richardson 102, and then Jordan Love one pick ahead of me. I don't have a single share of Jordan Love across 40 leagues, so I definitely would have considered him there just to kind of switch it up and get some exposure to Love. But alas, I did not. So it was all reliable at 2-3 with Kyler Murray, who I also think is live to outscore Justin Herbert and kind of be whatever. He had a season where he scored, I believe, 25 points a game and 6-point passing touchdowns. So I really think like this Lamb Murray combo here at the back end of the first, early second, I think is just a cheat code right now. And I hadn't gotten to it yet this off season, so I really just wanted to switch it up. And even though I have a shit ton of Kyler already, I can't stop taking can't stop taking him. Uh, and I think his ADP on Dynasty Data Lab, shout out Adiko, is the back end of the second. But um, I mean, I don't know. I think this is where he should slot in. I don't see any reason to push him. I prefer him over the Dak and T Law. Um, so yeah. So I mean, conceivably in a season, Lamb could be at like 23, 25 points per game, and so could Murray, which is very good production to get at the back end of the first tier. So in 3 round reversal, that sets you up very, very nicely. And then we see Amon Ra come off the board right after, which I think this is a fine range for him. Puka, Bijan, Brees Hall, T-Law, Garrett Wilson, Dak. I believe this is 103, and then Jahmyr Gibbs. And then we come back around to the turn at 3-1, and we see AJ Brown. So nothing super crazy, no crazy reaches or anything like that. I think it's pretty much par for the course at that point. And then we see 104 go off the board. I definitely was eyeing the 104 there. And I was kind of sad when it went. And then this draft in particular, it was very hard to trade back, which has been my experience in a lot of startups this offseason. I won't admit how many I've done this offseason. I'm trying to slow down a little bit, but it has, I think, in probably almost all of them, it's been very hard to trade back. People are not really looking to trade up. They're more looking to, everyone's trying to trade back. So that's happened to me a few times where I'm just kind of, I was trying to trade back and kind of pick up some value because there's a lot of guys that I like here. There's CMC, Trey McBride. I have a lot of Olave, but Olave 104, I would have loved. Tyreek Hill, I think all those guys are pretty solid options there. But being the tight end whore that I am, I took Sam Laporta there, 3-3. I as you see in the top right corner there. Oh, I gotta adjust my screen so you guys can see that. What the hell? So we have this beautiful new helmet up here in the corner. Shout out El Coach, the guy who sent that to me. So I'm gonna have to try to make my setup a little nicer, get some LEDs, get the streamer setup looking a little bit better. But that's the first step right there. So shout out El Coach. But yeah, Sam Laporta. I don't think there's that much of a difference between Laporta, McBride. We have Andrews going all the way, like he falls to the 5th round or late 4th a lot of times. And then we have Bowers coming in, who could conceivably move up into this early 3rd range if he gets a really juicy landing spot in the draft capital. But I think he's a pretty safe pick at that spot. Part of me wants to go back and take CMC here and just kind of go balls to the wall and just trying to win the league by scoring as many points as possible. But I think Laporta, just if I want to get out, there will be buyers for him. I know that regardless. And hopefully he gives me maybe not as much of an advantage as Travis Kelce has presented in years past, but versus a random tight end 12, he should still give me a pretty big advantage. So I think starting off with a wide receiver that can score and give me a huge warp advantage, Kyler Murray, who can give me a warp advantage, and Laporta sets me up really nicely to go into the rest of the draft and just try to take what value falls to me. I kind of have my premium positions covered off, and then I can wrap up and try to get a QB2 and fill in the rest of my roster. So Sam Laporta, and then we see, like I said, McBride. I was trying to move back and get something, and then pick McBride in this mid-3rd. We see Fields. I mean, I have no Fields, and I think this is still way too high, considering that I've seen a lot of people, I believe Sam Sherman and a few other people, saying like there's a decent chance that he isn't a starting quarterback, just with the moving pieces and everyone kind of moving around with the draft and with free agents. and there's not as much interest as people have seen. So definitely very early for Fields, in my opinion. There is a lot of upside if he is starting. So I can see why people would take him, but not a guy I'm really targeting in this range. We see, I believe this is 106 go. Tyreek Hill go at 310, which I feel like Tyreek Hill, like he's going to score a lot of points. Kind of view him similarly to CMC, but if you're going for a win now build, I think it's a pretty solid piece to pick up there. Purdy 311 and Tua 4-1. I mean, it's just kind of scarcity at the quarterback position, I feel like, and they're pretty similar guys. And if they're my QB2, I feel fine. If they're QB1, not as great. But like if you compare here a Josh Allen with a Purdy, that feels pretty good if he's your QB2. So then we get a slew of wide receivers going off the board: Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, Drake London, Ayuk, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. So like all these guys, pretty much one big tier for me after Hill. Honestly, all the way to like the T Higgins range right here. It's all so I'm in this range. I'm looking to trade back and just pick up some value to try to take these guys in the same tier. So yeah, I think Drake London is a really big buy right now, just based on the fact that I don't know if it's the most likely outcome, but they are probably looking for a pocket passer, and if it's Kirk Cousins or someone else who's just reliable, I think Drake London and Kyle Pitts will definitely be going to the moon. So good time to buy him. Doesn't usually go this early. I think he's usually more end of the fourth range. But yeah, I think this is, however, really good range for wide receivers. We see in this one, our boy El Coach got Jonathan Taylor at 4.8, which I believe his ADP is around like 310. So almost a full round of ADP. So that I was trying to move up to scoop Jonathan Taylor there. But otherwise, there's still a lot of guys I like here. So happy to sit back. And when I was on the clock at 410, I was between Achan and ETN because ETN's ADP is actually higher. I believe I forget if it's 4-1 or 4-2 or something like that. And Achan's a little bit farther back, but I just wanted to, I really like Achan this year. He's going in the second round in best ball, which is so higher than ETN. And I'm kind of viewing running back year to year. And I just think there are outs for Achan to kind of push up even higher than he's going now. Just whatever, Mostert is old, and if they don't add anyone of significance to the backfield, so happy taking Achan there. Would have liked Taylor slightly more, but they're going back to back in best ball right now, so not too much of a difference. And Achan's younger, so felt pretty good about that value there. We see El Coach traded up for Mark Andrews. I probably would have taken Mark Andrews there if I didn't already have so much. So it's reaching the point where it's probably minus EV to keep doing drafts when I feel like I can't take the best guy available. But so yeah. So then I come back around. I don't have a lot of Smith or Pittman, so would have been happy taking them there. And then we kind of reach this decision point here at 5-3, where I already have taken one running back, and it's like I'm fine with taking one running back early. I don't usually like to take more than one in the first, like, I would say 9 rounds, because I think there's a good range in like the 9-10 range with like kind of the Ramondre and Najee and Kamara and those kind of type of guys. But ETN, his ADP is still like early fourth, like I said before. So I was between him and Rashi Rice and Kyron Williams. Rashi Rice, I think he's a fine pick at this cost, but just the ADP hound in me couldn't pass up the like over round of ADP on ETN. And I think as we draw closer to the season, the running backs will increase in value a little bit. And if the Chiefs do add another receiver, then Rice could get pushed down a little bit. So really just a value play there. And ETN started off the year extremely hot with whatever he was putting up over 20 points a game, and then he fell off at the end of the season. So there is some risk there, but um, he is one of the guys that can kind of give us a legendary season if everything does go right. I don't think it's the most likely outcome, but it could happen. So yeah, Kyron was another option here. I think he's a fine pick in this range too. Like if he is the starter and they don't add anyone, he does give you a really good chance of giving you that 20 points per game, like as we saw last year. So um, part of me thinks that Kyron would have been a better pick here, but I think you're splitting hairs between these two. Their ADP is like back to back here. So really just whatever your flavor is. I think ETN's floor is higher, so that's why I went to ETN. Let's check the chat here really quick as I catch my breath. Shout out El Coach, like I said, the helmet up there, the Sam Laporta trophy. We got Ferris in the chat, the homie who's in a bunch of leagues with me. And then we got Travis Presley, who's Red Pandas. Not in this draft, but he's in many drafts. How much does best ball change your draft strategy? Same scoring settings and such. You to best commish. Okay. So I'm caveat, I am only in one Dynasty best ball league. But I would say I think I would approach it a lot more. It's not too much different, but I would in the one that I am in, I kind of got locked out of the top elite tight ends, and I just attacked it through volume. So I took like Dalton Schultz and Chig and like a bunch of like I kind of just had like 6 or 7 guys that at any given week could give me a usable week. And I feel like that turned out pretty well. But if the scoring settings are the same, I think I would be a little bit more willing to go 0 RB as the same as I am in regular underdog best ball. So just try to get a big advantage at least QB1. I think QB2, you can kind of attack it through volume as well. If you get a few guys that are at least going to start, if you get like your QB2 and QB3 being like Stafford and Derek Carr or something like that, where like you're not going to get dinged too much if you just split those two guys and whatever one scores more that week, and still try to get obviously elite quarterback, and then running back outside of the top like whatever 3 or 4 if I'm missing out on like kind of this through this HN maybe Kyron range. After that, I'm probably just waiting and then just hammering off like 15 guys from like round 10 to the end of the draft. With hopefully your first one being like a Kamara or a Najee or that or a Demont or that kind of range. Because I think you can just load up on wide receivers in those middle rounds, and that will just if you have more flex, if you have like let's say 3 wide receiver spots and 2 flexes, that'll really you want to prioritize wide receivers in that range. And I'm trying to think the other difference is really, I mean, it really like yeah, after like round 12 or 13, normally I'm not really taking wide receivers outside of like Tyler Lockett was falling really far in the first couple months after the offseason. Probably will move up a little bit. But yeah, definitely more willing to take some flyer wide receivers like a Shaheed or like a Brandon Cooks or like those type of guys in best ball just because they could give you some usable weeks later on. Whereas in a managed league, you're not really going to ever be starting those guys, and it's kind of useless to roster them after a certain point. So yeah, just I would say if you are doing dynasty best ball, it's super super important to be just in tune with underdog ADP, and just doing some best ball draft and following some best ball content, because you can kind of wrap your head around it a little bit more. And it's slightly different strategy I'm not an expert in dynasty best ball, but yeah, that would be my advice is just follow all the streamers, follow Pete, follow Legendary Upside, all those guys, and that can kind of switch your brain into a best ball mindset, and then you can combine that if you're a dynasty player, and that will give you the best of both worlds. So picking back up where we left off. So yeah, went ETN at 5-3 and HN, so very T heavy fourth and fifth round. So then the other guy I was considering at this pick was Deshaun Watson. By Dynasty Data Lab ADP, he was, I believe it was early sixth range. And I was kind of worried I was going to miss out on him in this draft, particularly with I know some people being a little bit higher on him than maybe the general market, but I pushed it just based on the fact that ETN's ADP was 2 rounds higher, and I just wanted to take the value. But yeah, Watson ended up falling to 6-1, and I don't have the trade pulled up, but I think I traded like a third or like a 2-3 swap or something to move up from 6-10 to select Deshaun Watson. As a human being, he's terrible, as we all know, and I think that probably pushes down his ADP a little bit. Just some people are out on him, as I've seen in trades and everything. I was selling Watson in season. I got a few Dak shares off of people when Dak was still playing pretty bad the first couple weeks of the season. But like otherwise, I wasn't really looking to sell Watson as his price was decreasing. But now in startups, it's reached the point where I've taken him a few times in my last couple drafts just because I do think he provides upside at this cost that like none of these other quarterbacks really provide. We saw they just added Jerry Jeudy. They have Amari Cooper and Njoku. They have a good old line. They have smart coaches and GM. So, I mean, it's obviously a risk. There's a reason he's going here at 6-1 and not where he was in the last offseason in like the 1-2 turn range. But I mean, from an actual scoring perspective, not real life football perspective, he was fine last year. I think he put up like 18.5 or 19 points per game, which is perfectly fine, especially from your QB2. And I just think this is too cheap for him right now. I've seen a lot of people in the Bulletproof Discord saying like, yeah, I think they value him in kind of like this third to fourth range with like Purdy to Goff, like above those guys. So very happy to get him at 6-1. And I believe Chaz, who is one of my friends and someone I know from the Bulletproof Discord, he was going to take him there at 6-2, and he ended up taking Bryce Young instead. So I would have missed out on him if I didn't trade up. So very happy I did because I think there's a pretty big tier gap for me between those two guys. So we see after that, we get some nice wide receivers: Debo, Addison, Reed, Pickens, and Devontae. I was really hoping Devontae would fall to me at 7-3, but once I made the trade up, I figured probably I was going to miss out on him, and I didn't really want to move another whatever pick swap or anything to move up to try to get him. So missed out on Adams, but we see I only had CD at wide receiver up to that point because I was taking the falling value there with HN, ETN. But I just think Walker is a 23-year-old running back. He obviously hasn't really been what we thought he was going to be, but I do still think the talent is there, and I took him just for the value, for the fact that whatever he could. I think he probably will be valued as we get closer to the season, barring Charbonnet just beating him out pretty highly, at least probably. At least I think this is like pretty much the floor for where he'll go unless something catastrophic happens. So really just picking him, I'll take him and just use him if I need to. But I'll also, whatever, if a trade opportunity presents itself and I can trade him for someone that I'm more interested in, I will definitely do that. I was I was kind of locked out at wide receiver. I was thinking about reaching on Mike Evans, but I was like, from a process standpoint, it doesn't really make sense to take Evans ahead of ADP when I can probably trade Kenneth Walker for Mike Evans later on. So why would I take Mike Evans above? So that was kind of my reasoning there. I believe I traded a second to move up from 810 to 711, and I think I moved up. So I forget the exact trade. It was a couple weeks ago now, but I moved up in a few spots because I was worried about missing out on kind of this tier of wide receivers, the Mike Evans, the Cup, the Amari Cooper. It was kind of a wide receiver avalanche draft up to that point. It ended up not probably didn't need to do that. There were some guys that fell to me at where I was going to be picking. So I mean, not a crazy cost, and I ended up getting a second round pick back later on in the draft for I believe my 13th round pick. Let's see. Yeah, I believe it. I think it was. I think I got a second and a third for one of these picks back here. Um, so I recouped it. So I mean, not the worst trade in the world. So yeah, but I ended up taking Mike Evans. This was before he re-signed back with Tampa Bay, so there was a little bit of upside there. I'm like, oh, if he signed with the Chiefs or something, could be pretty interesting. But I think whatever. Otherwise, as my wide receiver two, pretty solid. He'll give me probably back end wide receiver one uh, or high wide receiver two production and some big spike weeks with Baker coming back and as he just signed today. So fine pick there at 7-11. I mean, whatever. You're just looking for guys to fill your wide receiver spots and fill your flexes. So then we see Daniel Jones go 8-1, which is pretty egregiously high, honestly. Kelsey at 8-2 is a really good value with now that we know he's coming back. We see Kamara and Najee. This is our boy Bush, who's been on here. He went uh, Hurts, Prescott, and then four straight wide receivers. With kind of like I said, it was kind of a piss boy room for a little bit, and it kind of slowed down. But he ended up taking Kamara and Najee a little bit ahead of ADP, but he ended up still getting Kirk at 9-10. So ended up working out perfectly fine for him. And I think the way that his team was structured, it made sense to do that and kind of lock up a few running backs in that range. We see Baker, who just signed this deal. I think Baker's pretty egregiously priced. I mean, I understand he has security because he just signed the deal, but I think I prefer, or I'm not prefer, but prefer at cost. Like Stafford usually goes in this range or a little bit later. Gino, Aaron Rodgers, like kind of that tier of guys. If they're cheaper, which they usually are, I'll just take them and whatever plus I can get on top for the opportunity cost of this eighth round or seventh round range. And then we see kind of the next tier of wide receivers: Godwin, Cooper Cup, and then Deontay at 8-9. And then I am back up at 8-12. And I was between a few different guys. Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin, Christian Watson went one pick before me, but I have like 25% Christian Watson. So yeah, another old vet guy that, as we saw, kind of he gave us like a 50-point week in week 16, which is more helpful in best ball, but still he has that potential. And otherwise, he's going to give you the same points. He always gives you 15, 16 points a game, kind of similar to Mike Evans and in the 8th round and late 7th round, like fill in those wide receiver spots, which is you can get similar production with these vets as guys in this kind of DJ Moore, Ayuk, Nico, Tank Dell range at a much cheaper cost. So it's not to say I don't like these wide receivers in this range. I think it's you still want some of them, but there is some arbitrage opportunities to move off of them if you can get like whatever one of these Amari Cooper, Mike Evans, plus something pretty juicy on top, just for the name value of those younger wide receivers. I probably do that in most cases, but yeah, all that to say, perfectly good, perfectly fine with Amari Cooper there at 812 to fill that. And then we see McLaurin, the other guy I was considering, Demont, Josh Downs, Calvin Ridley, Njoku. These tight end values are pretty good right here as Kittle, Njoku, Ferguson, and Engram. I think all their ADPs are at least a round ahead of this. So pretty good value for these tight ends that fell here. Um, and Keenan all the way at 10-2 is a very good value. So yeah, like I said, it was very wide receiver heavy early, but then it slowed down with people kind of trying to catch up at other positions. So it worked out pretty well for some people that were like Bush, who ended up taking Kirk at 910. That's a really good price on him. And then Keenan, Engram, Ramondre. Yeah, really all these guys in this range, pretty good values. So then I really, I was, I was really wanting Jacoby Myers there. He's the ever solid 13 to 14 points per game. That's usually way too cheap. Um, and he went 10-9 is I think a perfectly fair range for him, but a little bit higher than ADP. So I was hoping you'd fall to me, but I mean, I have a lot of Hollywood Brown. Obviously, he's had injury problems, but I do think whether he's back in Arizona or if he gets a deal, a pretty decent deal just as a free agent on a new team, 10-10 is a perfectly solid price for him to take that shot. So another guy to add to my wide receiver room to kind of just give me that kind of replaceable 12 to 13 to 14 points per game. And then we had a little bit of a gap here. We see some running backs like a Sharps, B. Rob, Warren, some pretty good picks here. Definitely was really wanting D Hop to fall to me. I assumed he wasn't going to, but that he's a very big buy for me right now in any team that I'm looking to contend at all. He's just going way too cheap. Like same thing. Cut it. He obviously had Will Levis and Tannehill on a pretty low volume passing offense, but he put up almost a 30% target shares. Peripherals still looked very good, and I think his ADP is in the 12th round. So very good buy for you to fill that flex at this cost. It's way too cheap. So definitely be trying to acquire vets this time of year. We kind of highlighted some before, the Mike Evans, the Amari Cooper, but even cheaper, Keenan Allen and DeAndre Hopkins definitely could vastly outproduce this draft capital. And then so yeah, Pollard fell all the way to 12-4, which I mean, if he signs with like the Ravens or someone gets a juicy landing spot, will be a huge value. And Mixon. So yeah, we see some of these kind of free agent running backs where there's some people are scared on kind of what the situation is going to be with so many moving pieces. Be pushed down a little bit, which this is way later than I've seen Pollard and Mixon go. So that's probably a good bet to make at that cost, just for the fact that they're being pushed back so far. And then I'm back up at 12-10, and there's not a lot of wide receivers I was loving at this point. I was really hoping Hopkins would fall to me. But otherwise, the wide receivers on the board were Jerry Jeudy, who we just saw traded. Tyler Lockett went to Zauper, way ahead of ADP. I think his ADP is like 14th or 15th round. But we saw he just resigned, so this is probably the range he should be going, if not higher. Wandale, Sutton. So this is not a great range for wide receivers. Like you can take your shots. But I'll take the shot on Aaron Jones. When healthy last year, he looked still very solid. They'll probably add someone in the draft late, or a cheap running back to pair him with. But if he's in the same role he's been in Green Bay, I think he's still a good bet to give you whatever 15, 16 points a game, which at 12-10 prices is pretty solid. Um, what else is going on here? So yeah, so we're off for a little bit. Um, See QJ go off the board, which I'm sorry, I'm not taking QJ. Goddard fell all the way to 12-3. So yeah, Bush had a really this is a very good draft right here, honestly. We see he got two quarterbacks that can score very well. He filled out his flex with five wide receivers that could give him wide receiver one production in a given week. He got a lot of running backs to just kind of play the zero RB game with some older guys and then some upside shots later on. And then he still got two, I mean, probably not like top end production tight ends, but at least replaceable. And Ingram has shown that he could score like 16 points a game. So Ingram and Goddard at that cost is way too cheap. So he waited on tight end and it paid off. So very good get by him there, but with the Goddard and Ingram at 10-3 and 12-3 respectively. And then we just kind of see some of these running backs where we're not super sure about them, but there's some upside there with Roshan in Chicago. Zamir White is probably the starter in Las Vegas. Eckler, we don't really know what's going on with him. I'm a little bit worried about Eckler, but 13-11 is a solid price. Chase Brown. Chuba is getting some steam, so he's a very good pick in this 13th round. And then we are back up at 13-8. I think I'm going at this the wrong way. So yeah, never mind. But yeah, so we see here James Conner went right before. I would have considered him, but I think Pat Fryermuth is a good value at this cost. Arthur Smith scares me a little bit, but I mean, he didn't really do anything to scare me off from like I wouldn't say super high on him last year, but very intriguing profile, and he's still only 25 years old. Um, so yeah, I think 13th round for a tight end was looking very good coming to the season, dealt with some injuries, but good price on him. So yeah, I fucked up. I was going the wrong way in the 3-round reversal, but so yeah, so then we see Chuba, Chase Brown, Eckler, Jerome Ford, Khalil Herbert. All these guys are kind of going in the pick 110 to like 140 range in best ball right now. So kind of those traditional zero RB targets. So yeah, like if you did take one anchor or running back early and then you want to load up on a few of these guys late, I think that's a really good strategy. Or like a James Conner, Ty Chandler. A little bit early on Antonio Gibson for me. But yeah, Singletary, all good run options to just take. You just for a lot of builds, whether it's zero RB or hero RB, you just want to attack that RB2 spot with volume and just take a lot of shots. And then whatever, just week by week, whoever, if a guy in front of them gets injured, that you can start them, or just whatever, if they're an older guy and they just have some projectable volume, you can start them as well. So next up, we are here at 14-10, and I took Demario Douglas, who, I mean, I've been seeing him a lot of times this offseason going in like the 12th round. So I was very happy to select him here. We see Mims, obviously Judy getting traded, so he'll probably get moved up a bit. So, but at this point, this is a few weeks ago, so I'm fine with Douglas. I don't think he's super high ceiling, but I think he showed pretty well as a rookie. And this is way too cheap for him, in my opinion. Like just as a usable flex guy, even if that's all he gives me, this is a good range. And then we come back around. Likely and Chig seems way too early for those guys, in my opinion, as non-difference making. Likely's backup, and Chig hasn't really shown us much. But yeah, we're back up, and I was between a few different picks here. Devin Singletary. At this point, I had already taken so many running backs with HN, ETN, Walker, and Jones. So Not my typical build, with kind of pushing wide receiver, but at this point in the offseason, you're not necessarily trying to fill out all your roster, like all your starting spots. You're just kind of want to taking the value when it comes to you, which I think definitely I tried to do in this draft with HN falling, ETN falling, Walker falling, Watson falling, Marquise Brown. Like I said, that's probably too cheap. Aaron Jones probably too cheap. Probably like so. So just accumulate all that value, and then as we get closer to the season and some of the situations are more cleared up in terms of who's the RB2, who's the if someone's getting traded, how where the rookies go. Like then at that point you can use these different pieces to kind of move around the chessboard and make the moves you need to make. Or whatever, pair a Kenneth Walker and Aaron Jones to an RB needy team for a better wide receiver or something like that. There's a million examples of what you could do there, but yeah, don't definitely don't focus on like obviously you still want to focus on positions to a certain extent. You don't want to just be completely left out of QB specifically. Um, and I would say you don't want to get completely buried at wide receiver, but otherwise, like just take the value that comes to you and figure out the rest later. Would be a tenant that I would preach. Although I am not the liver king, I will talk about tenants. Um, so yeah, Khalil Shakir, he's going around pick, I believe, 100, 110 in best ball. They're probably going to draft someone or add someone in free agency. So I don't think he'll be the wide receiver 2, but we've seen the wide receiver 3 um, be productive. And I just think if anything, whatever, if he doesn't, he'll probably give me usable production, and I might be able to flip him as we see the Buffalo and KC players consistently get steamed up. So really just a value pick there as well. And so let's just close out. Don't want to dig too deep at this point, but yeah, we see Gabe Davis go 16-7. He's probably going to sign somewhere. It's a good pick. I was back up. Let's see if there's any other picks that I really like here in this range. Nothing super. It's nothing that stands out too much. So yeah, I'm up at 16-10, and um, I just I knew El Coach was going to take Fant. I thought I was going to take him there at 16-8. So I took Fant. I've been preaching Fant all off season and into last year. But I just think, yeah, he has a good chance to sign somewhere and shoot up in value. So we will play the buy for him. But yeah, if you can get Fant for as a throw-in, I mean, I don't know, like probably like you can get him for a third. I would do that. For like a anything later than a like early third, I would definitely do that. But yeah, really good cost there. Would have loved for Jaleel McLaughlin there too. But I just think Fant is likely to rise in value, so I took him there. Um, and then let's just go through these next couple picks, and then we can close it out. But yeah, Ryan Tannehill, I don't know if he'll start somewhere. I don't have a QB3, so it's a little bit precarious. But like I said, just take the value that comes to you, and you can figure it out later. So if Tannehill and or Garoppolo are starting and they can be my QB3, then that's great. I can either use them in that role or I can use them as trade bait. So this is a really good cost on Tannehill. Let's see. In the 19th round, I have 2 picks, and I took just some because I'm a little bit thin at wide receiver. Samuel is a free agent, so if he gets a good landing spot, he always gives you pretty reasonable production in a 19th round. If he gives me, even if it's 10 points a game, and who knows, if anything more than that is gravy, as just a flex fill in. And then Adam Thielen, whatever. Obviously, it's gross. He's 33. They're probably going to add a lot of wide receivers in the draft and or free agency, but 19th round, whatever. That's not the opportunity cost is Cedric Tillman and Michael Carter. So whatever. if he keeps it going and gets fed some targets and gives me some usable weeks in the flex, I'm perfectly fine with that. So just because I'm a little bit lighter at wide receiver, as we saw, just kind of attacking it through volume, and just if I get a couple hits out of this group, where I can use them, and I can still trade some of these other guys like an ETN, a Kenneth Walker, or one of these guys. And then after that, oh, um, so after that, we just have some guys that are going in like the 20th, 19th round in best ball, some running backs that I mean, it's not a great chance that they're going to give me anything super, super strong, but Gainwell, who knows what's going to happen in Philly if he's the RB2. I think there's a very, very small chance that he's the RB1. I doubt it. We just saw Hunter Henry resign with the Patriots on, I believe, a 3-year deal. So just another tight end that will probably be usable in season. Keaton Mitchell towards ACL late. They're probably going to add whatever. I've seen some Pollard talk. I've seen some Derrick Henry talk. But I think Justice Hill is under contract, so even if he gives you, if he's the RB2 for a while in Baltimore, that's a fine pick at this range. Jeff Wilson didn't really show anything last year, but Mostert is a year older, and if he's kind of the Thunder to Achan's Lightning, crazier things have happened. If he just walks into some goal line touches and just whatever, it's a good offense to be part of. Ronnie Rivers was the RB2 in Los Angeles for the Rams. Not sure he will be again, but like I said, the cost is pretty low. And then Kareem Hunt, also very, very cheap. Just 26th round. He's 28, but whatever. He could be the RB2 somewhere. The starter could get hurt and he can give you some weeks. So yeah, like you really want to be targeting quarterbacks, like backup quarterbacks, late, running backs where you think they could just whatever fall into some work, whether it's contingent or just a little bit of whatever projectable volume where they just are the RB2 and they get 10 touches per game or something like that. And really just anyone else you think could shoot up in value. Like I said, at this point, uh, as you get closer to the start of the actual football season, you can draft a little bit more, like to fill out your actual roster because you kind of have more information. But at this time of year, it's really just accumulating value and then figuring it out later. So, like a Carson Wentz, um, uh, whatever. He only had one game last year, but I think he scored like 20 something points. So who knows? Maybe he's a bridge quarterback. Maybe he's a backup. And we saw how many quarterback injuries there were last year. I took Deshaun Watson. So if Flacco is the backup there and Deshaun Watson goes to shit, just have another out there. And then Mike Gesicki, not super interesting, but he's a free agent, and we've seen him put up some big numbers a couple of years ago. So if he signs with a team and gets a lot of work, could whatever 27th round, pretty cheap for that. So yeah, the final roster. Um, Let me pull it up here. So yeah, we got Kyler, Achan, Travis Etienne, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, Sam Laporta, Kenneth Walker, Hollywood Brown, Deshaun Watson, and then we have some other running backs and tight ends just filling it out. So yeah, I really like this team. I think the way that it turned out, I have some flexibility to either keep the running backs, but or trade them. But I think as we get closer to the season, they will increase in value, just because there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and people are always very wanting running backs once we get closer to the season. Not so much so in February and March. So definitely buy opportunities for those guys. And yeah, and then I was gonna pull up some Dynasty Data Lab ADP. Oh, it looks like it is working now, so I can talk through that for a second. So I will put it in the chat, but this is Adiko. He came out with this, I believe, like almost a month ago now, but it's called Dynasty Data Lab. I think I'm biased, but the best ADP tool in the industry. You can customize it based on your league settings, based on the time frame. You can input your sleeper draft when you're drafting, and it'll uh, like uh, black out so whoever has been taken, so you can kind of see by ADP who you should take. So yeah, just a very good tool. But trying to think just what like just if there's any crazy values. Like yeah, Kyler, like I said, I think he could outscore the Burrow Herbert pocket passer tier. So definitely load. I have been loading up on him, and you should be too. Um, what else is super standing out? I think Dak is a really good buy right now if you can get him late second, early third. I mean, we've seen just, I mean, it's he just scored almost 25 points a game last year and is still tied to Lamb, and maybe they get a better wide receiver too as well. But we know they're going to pass a lot, and we know Dak is a good real life quarterback. So either as your QB1 or your QB2, definitely good price on him there. Um, Purdy, I mean, I think he's fine at this cost. Just whatever. The setup around him is so good. Um, but yeah, definitely not trying to get him as my QB1, but if he's my QB2, I feel pretty solid. Let's see what else. Trey McBride 403 is a huge buy at that cost. I don't think there should be that much of a difference between Laporta at 303 and McBride at 403. So if you can get any plus on top, I'm not saying necessarily to sell Sam Laporta for Trey McBride. I want both of them, but whatever. If you can get Trey McBride in the fourth round, I'm doing that almost every time. So let's see what else. Like I was talking about before. I did the last month. So yeah, ETN and HN they moved back a little bit because I think I was doing the ADP for the last 2 months. So yeah, it looks like they're moving back a little bit. Let's see. Goff 501 is as you see, I'm a Lions fan. I love Goff with the buff and everything, but I think this is pretty high for a guy who's not going to give you difference making production. Much rather have Watson with just the upside shot if he could get back to form and kind of he gives you the rushing floor that Goff does not. So not a real life take, but a fantasy take. I just think it's too early for Goff. Um, these tight ends in this fifth round, like, geez, man, like these are very good picks in this fifth round. Definitely prefer them over kind of this like JSN, Jordan Addison, T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, non-difference making wide receivers. I mean, you guys know I'm a Mark Andrews stan, but this is just way too cheap, and it's just baking in the fact that he was hurt, but he had literally came back, um, or was almost. I forget if he was ready for the playoffs or almost ready for the playoffs, but we shouldn't be worrying about that, considering there's going to be like 9 months before he plays. And when he is on the field with Lamar, he's giving you difference making production like 17, 16, 17 points a game at tight end. So you get to play him in your tight end spot, and he's scoring more than like a DJ Moore and Pittman and Devonta Smith and basically all these wide receivers up until like the Tyreek Hill range, or they could outscore him, but I mean you're getting way cheaper, and he will score similarly, so that's very good cost. Hawkinson was balling out before the ACL injury, so you can pair him with even if it's like an Engram or a Mayer or a Goddard or someone later on, and just wait for him to come back. I think he's a good stash. He's been falling later than 504 in few of the drafts I've seen, just because build wise, it's like if you take him, you're kind of having to take another one later on, and there is some opportunity cost in this range. So if he falls to this late fifth, he's an auto click. Late fifth, sixth, he's a very good click. Watson, we were talking about before, but way too cheap. Um, Kenneth Walker 601. As I was talking about when in my draft, he fell to 703, and I just felt like I had to take the value there. And I will continue to preach buying olds. Devontae and Kelsey, very good picks at this cost. Could both give you 20 points a game if everything falls right. And this is very, very cheap for them. Another guy I'll target. I think Kirk is a little bit. I mean, he's going around these guys, and we see Stafford going around later. We see Gino going 3 rounds later. Like I like Kirk, and I think this is fine, but I feel like given the fact that he's coming off the Achilles, it's like I almost feel like this is a little bit too high, especially for. I mean, he might miss. I don't know, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Who knows what will happen? But just whatever. It's not so much a anti Kirk take, but just for the fact that you can get similar production for cheaper later on. But yeah, Levis I think is a good upside shot at quarterback here. I think he whatever. It didn't look great as a rookie, but he definitely has the traits. He has I believe his name's Callahan, Brian Callahan from the Bengals coming in, so they're probably going to be more pass heavy. They have Hopkins there, and then they have I forget if it's number eight pick or 9 pick. But we've seen some news and talk from their coach and front office that they're looking for a playmaker at that spot. I think a lot of people were penciling in an offensive tackle, but if they can get like a Neighbors or an O'Dunes, or maybe a Bowers at that spot, I think that'll look pretty good for Levis with the coaching change and with hopefully upgraded weapons. And in addition to Hopkins, I think he definitely provides a very good upside shot as your QB2. If you and then especially you can kind of have the more upside guy in Levis, and then pair him later on with like a Geno or a Stafford, um, or even a Derek Carr, where he just kind of gives you some floor just to you have someone to start that's not going to go to zero. So yeah, really good pick there. And I'm trying to think anyone else that really, really stands out. So let's just answer a couple of questions. I mean, we've been pretty long-winded. We're almost at an hour, but so El Coach, he says, do you think we'll see Green Bay's wide receivers get steamed up more in the offseason? I mean, I don't think so until we have some more clarity. It's almost like there's so many options. There's Watson, there's Dobbs, there's Wicks, Reed. I can see moving up just based on the year two breakout profile from him. But the rest of the guys, it's like I almost feel like they're all going to kind of stay down where they are or about where they are until if someone emerges in training camp or we get some buzz in training camp. So I think they're all fine. I mean, I don't like Dobbs, but the rest of the guys, Wicks and Watson at cost right now, I think are good buys just because they have outs to be the wide receiver too. And if not, like it's not a crazy cost. Let's see. Commanders are expected to offer Patrick Queen a 6-year, $105 million deal. Sounds like not a great move to pay an inside linebacker that much money. He's good, but not from a team building perspective. Yes, El Coach and I have been preaching the fan buy train for a while. Buy. So yes, we will continue to stay on that train until hopefully in the next I think free agency opens tomorrow or soon. So the tampering period. So hopefully next time we stream on Tuesday, he will have signed somewhere juicy. We'll pray to the dynasty and best ball gods. Fantasy Dog, shout out to you. Gonna go back and watch. We appreciate you. I think I'm gonna close out and just if anyone else has any other questions in the chat or anything else they want to talk about, I'll stay on for a couple more minutes. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'd like to do. I've been slacking a little bit on the dynasty content. Did so much early on and so many drafts early on, but I definitely want to do some more position specific stuff as we go through the off season and kind of how to approach each position and just some other like macro level stuff that you can apply to all your fantasy leagues as opposed to just like kind of like individual drafts like I just did. So gonna try to schedule that out. And what else do we have? So no, I have it's my anniversary this weekend, so I'll have the stream on Tuesday with a coach, but no Friday guest. So yeah, 2 weeks without a Friday guest, but just had too much going on these couple weeks. But after that, I'm gonna try to get Sacrilegious was supposed to come on last week. I had some people, my cousin coming into town, so I had to delay that one. But Sacrilegious, I was talking to Liam, I was talking to Fantasy Dog Pound, and a few others. So we have some good guests coming up, and otherwise I'm gonna try to continue on with the Monday streams, and then we'll be switching to Tuesday nights with El Coach, doing some, you know, 30 to 40 minutes of Dynasty and or, higher level talk, and then we'll hop into a draft on Tuesdays. But yeah. Oh, here we go. El Coach, can you help with the pick live? Yes, sir. What's going on? Also, shout out to Sammy, uh, Buffalo War Pigs, the homie in the chat. Let's see. Did El Coach message me? Let's see what's going on. El Coach, hit me up in the sleeper DMs or in the chat here, and I can help you with talk through your pick on right now. Let's see what else is going on. If you haven't already subscribed, definitely do that. Like I said, we're going to try to keep back on the 3 streams per week train, and yeah. What is Christian Watson? I'll coach at Christian Watson. What picker? What round is it? I'll coach. Yeah, we're at 223 subscribers. The goal is 500 for right now. But yeah, I'm really excited about how the off season has gone so far. Really appreciate all you guys tuning in, and like I said, we're gonna try to get some very very knowledgeable guests on here, and just kind of yeah, I think something I've been thinking about has just been like I've seen some other people talk about recently, which is good to see, is like the dichotomy of best ball and dynasty, and kind of how you can kind of use each one to sharpen the other side of things. So obviously, like this time of year, like all the draft content and the combine content, um, we're going at it earlier than ever from like a best ball perspective. But I think it's good to see the community kind of shifting in that direction. And then yeah, it's like you really can use a lot of lessons you learn from both mediums and transfer them over to the other side. So definitely happy to see that conversation going on across the fantasy space. Um, and definitely, yeah, I think want to talk just more about some macro level discussions about just where best ball is headed, and just get to know some of these other YouTubers and people in the fantasy space. So should be a very fun off season, and once we hit hot best ball summer, hopefully we're all ramped up and we can do some more streams throughout the week, more than just three. So okay, so L Coach says round 8, and options are Godwin, Watson, Christian Kirk, or Amari. Um, I mean, honestly, I mean, this is going to be a kind of a cop out answer, but can you trade back? If you can trade back, I'd probably do that. But otherwise, I slightly lean Amari. Just he saw him give you some huge spike weeks, and yeah, I feel like Amari would be my choice. I don't love Godwin. I think his ADP is they're pretty close to each other between Godwin and Amari. Christian Kirk, I believe, is right after that, and then Watson. I think it is best ball. I believe you're doing right now. So Watson is is solid, but I think I still prefer Amari there. And then maybe at the turn, yeah, you can get so yeah, pair an older guy, get an Amari or Godwin if you lean that way, and then either pair him up with a Watson. I think that would be my move is get one of the olds and then get the upside shot with Watson, who does have a lower floor, but it doesn't hurt you as much in best ball. Let's see. Who's your Devo? Shout out to you. Um, Toronto Dave, the Mandam. What's good? What's good? All right, guys. Well, I hope you guys have a good Sunday night. Couldn't do it in the morning, so glad I could get it in tonight on a Sunday night. But everyone, get some rest, get ready for the week, and I will see you on Tuesday. Thanks so much, everyone.